Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. Funding for Chautauqua Sunrise is provided in part by the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency, with offices in Jamestown and Dunkirk, helping businesses to prosper throughout Chautauqua County. From supporting people with disabilities to enjoy great lives, to providing health care services that are available to anyone, the Resource Center has been improving our county for more than 60 years. Learn more about how the Resource Center makes a positive difference in people's lives. From the Access Chautauqua Studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Chautauqua. We are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week from 9 to 10 a.m. Send events via email or call us live. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook. And now, from the Access Chautauqua Studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
That was like whiplash there for a second. Good morning, everybody. I'm Doc Hamels. Just in case you are wondering, where's the other Doc Hamels? I got a haircut, every one of them. People say, woo, I never saw you with a haircut that short. And it's probably true. I haven't had my hair like this probably in 35 years. Going on a little side trip this week where it's like 100 degrees. So I thought it's probably time to cut the lock so I'm not stuck and jammed up with hair here. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well, and we have a really cool show in store for you today. It's really part two to what we were talking about some time ago about George Custer and Little Bighorn, and we're going to do a deep dive into the behind-the-scenes story, and I've been thinking about this story for some time now, so I can't wait to learn more about it. So my guest is waiting in the wings to come on, but we got a few things to share with you before that. I want to say good afternoon to those in Europe that are watching us. Hello, Ukraine. You know, our thoughts are with you. I want to say good afternoon to our listeners on WRFA 107.9, low power to the people in Jamestown. Thanks for checking in with us Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. And while I'm on the topic, I'll pull up my WRFA cup here. I want to remind you that they are looking for community input. Jason Sample put out an all-points bulletin to the community. They are in a situation where their funding has changed, and they are looking to see what you all think about the programming and how to support it and the direction for it. 20 years ago, Dennis Drew, 10,000 Maniacs keyboard player, founded the radio station from what I read and understood in our discussions over the years. And WRFA has been a great supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. So anything we can do to help them out, give them suggestions, ideas for funding, grants, whatever it is, let them know. And there's an online survey that you can go to and just look up WRFA, I think it's .com perhaps, and there's a survey there and they're asking folks to let them know what you think. It's a low power in the sense that it's public access like we are, not-for-profit and so on. And anybody that's ever worked with a not-for-profit organization knows that it is tricky sometimes to maintain funding. And WRFA has been a real gem in Chautauqua County. It offers programming that no one else offers here in the area. And we certainly support them here as well. So, that being said, check them out. We are, as far as I know, going to be live today. I know they're tinkering with some wire in the back room to make sure this all happens. So you can watch us live right now. If you are watching us or have to leave and want to keep watching us, you can watch us through Facebook. Just go to our Facebook page, Chautauqua Sunrise. And it's up. Okay, I just got the word that we believe we're running live around the world here. Also, if you have a question for me, my guest, you have an announcement, give us a call at 716-753-5225 right there. If you are watching the show later in the week and say, gosh, I should have called in, I forgot, that's okay. You can call in if you have an announcement and leave a message. You can email me at chautauquasunrise@gmail.com. Leave us your announcements. Many people do, as you know, in the beginning of the show, I always read the announcements from around the county and the region. We're happy to do that. Okay, so let's see, what else we got going on here? Oh boy, Maui, what a tragic story that is. We seem to be having more and more of these, don't we, around the country and around the world. Canada, Greece, Maui, gosh, California's having a lot of issues. Got a hurricane coming through the west coast there. Crazy weather. Anyways, Maui. I did see this online today, and I mentioned it last week. The Red Cross is collecting funds for help for them. And as we all Americans know, that when somebody's in trouble, we have a rich history of helping each other over time. So I encourage you to think about it. Okay? All right. As a word of caution to you, there is something called the Grand Fondo going on right now in Chautauqua County, and it's a huge bicycle ride, and I see they just added a 100-mile ride to the event. And it's a fundraiser from what I understand. I don't know all the details, but they started this a few years ago, and I guess they do this around the country. So if you are around the lake especially, please be very cautious of our fellow bike riders. I'm a bike rider. A lot of the guys here are bike riders, and you know, they might be riding 2 and 3 abreast, so they might be right on the edge of the shoulder. Please give them a little assistance and some space when you're driving through there. And I believe that's going to be happening probably through most of the day, especially the 100-mile ride. It's going to be a few hours for them to complete that. So, word of wise to you. All right. Buffalo Bills. You could care less, I know. Preseason. Randy's already made his predictions. He's one of the few people I know that really doesn't like the Buffalo Bills. We got to work on him. Anyways, it's always a fun time of year, and it just seems like we just had football season, just almost like we get a little break from February till now, and then it starts all over again, so that's fun. Want to remind you that September 2nd, we don't have a slide on this, but that's okay because we're going to have some guests coming in next week to talk more about this in great depth. But September 2nd in Westfield is going to be the Grape and Wine Festival. It's going to be the first time they've ever done this, from what I've been told. So it's a family-friendly event, and we want you to participate if you can out in that area. So it should be a lot of fun. As always, I remind you that there are lots of things happening here in Chautauqua County. There's farmers markets in Jamestown right now, in Westfield right now, Thursdays in Mayville from 1 to 5. And there's all kinds of recreational events. There's many venues with live music. My brothers and sisters in arms. Oh, there it is. Thanks, Jeff, for bringing that up. All right, so that's coming up. September 2nd on a Saturday, and we don't have a lot of details, but we are going to talk about it in great depth. It's going to be running from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. over in Moore Park and over at the Discovery Center. And if you watch the past shows, and we have had folks from the Great Discovery Center, and if you haven't been there, take your kids there. Even if you don't have kids, go yourself. It's very educational and lots of cool exhibits. Okay, thanks, Jeff, for popping that up. Okay. And they have grape-flavored popcorn. That's hard to say fast. We've had samples of that here at the studio. Okay, so let's get to our announcements, and then my guest who is waiting in the wings. All right, so let's go to the Infinity folks, and they have this Explore Nature Through Art, and it's a natural selection art gallery open September 9th. Okay, the Pearl City Clay House that we've talked about in the past, the new secondary location of Infinity Visual and Performing Arts, is proud to announce the opening of Natural Selection, a unique art exhibit featuring 4 local female artists and their perspectives on wilderness. On September 9, visitors will have the opportunity to view oil paintings, watercolor, ink drawings, photography, textiles, and a whole lot more. Seems hard to believe we're already talking about September. Next week's show is the last show for August, and then we're into the throes of September. As I digress here as usual, I noticed that my grapes are starting to get a little color to them, so that usually is an indication, and the apples are getting a little blush. So summer is not done yet, but it's more than halfway through. All right, let's get back to my announcement. Natural Selection features the work of these people. All right, I'll just give you a real quick one here. Let's see here. I'm trying to make sure I got this in the right order. There's Angela Cayley. We don't have photos on this. I'll just tell you a little about them. She's featuring oil and acrylic and ink. Then there's Ash Pickering. She does minutia, watercolors, acrylic, and ink. Jennifer Bittner, photography, and Sarah Brown Millspaw, watercolor and textiles. Each artist has created works that explore a different aspect of nature with their own unique style. The artists' works are all heavily inspired by time spent in nature and a love for natural world. Okay, Ash Pickering shares, Lady Bird Johnson once said, "The environment is where we all meet, where all have a mutual interest. It is the one thing all of us share." You know, as I've traveled throughout the United States with my wife and my family over the years, we have seen areas where wildflowers were planted, and it'll say, you know, Lady Bird Johnson Foundation, or was funded by, or whatever. And so she really was an inspiration for a lot of folks to plant and enjoy nature. Natural Selection was inspired by their own unique experiences and personal relationship with nature. It is a tribute to the interconnectedness of nature and the human experience and how it supports us all. Each artist created a new series for this show, their own work, and they're thrilled to share this unique experience with the public. Okay, so Natural Selection opens at the Pearl City Clay House, and that's located at 220 East 2nd Street in Jamestown, starting September 9 at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Refreshments will be served, and admission is free. During the reception, there will be short talks given by local biology and sustainable living experts, Dr. Elizabeth Burgess, Kara Bemis, and Melanie Smith. And in the words of Shane Hawkins, she's so excited to see this exhibit happen at Affinity's new satellite site. These 4 talented artists are well known to Infinity, and she can't wait to see their tribute to nature and the human experience. Stop down, support these artists, and get a peek at what Pearl City Clay House offers. Now, Shane Hawkins is the director of Infinity, and she's being very humble here because I'm friends with her on Facebook, and she is in nature every single day, and she's snapping pictures of nature, fungus, leaves, stone formations, tree formations that are very unusual, and so she's very much into nature. So that's coming up on September 9th for a while at the Pearl City Clay House. Okay, so let's move along here. Today I want to announce that on April, oh my gosh, I want it to be cool, spring, I guess. August 24th, okay, coming up. The Chautauqua County Health Department has announced a free rabies vaccination Thursday, August 24th. Oh, we got a dog in the picture. Looks like my grand dog Maverick. From 5 to 7 p.m. in the town of Ellington Highway Garage at 763 East Main Street in Ellington. The clinic is co-sponsored by the town of Ellington and Chautauqua County Health Department. Dr. Mary Fales will be attending veterinarian. Vaccinations will be provided free of charge to all dogs, cats, and domesticated ferrets 3 months of age and older. All dogs must be on a leash. All cats must be individual carriers. Pets do not have to be pre-registered for this clinic, but they got to be secure. Pet owners must bring previous rabies vaccination records for each animal receiving a shot to ensure proper and effective vaccination. Clinic staff will confirm previous rabies vaccination records. Animals without previous vaccination records will receive one-year dose of vaccine. New York State Public Health requires each dog, cat, and domesticated ferret over the age of 4 months to be vaccinated against rabies. I didn't know that about ferrets. That's interesting. County residents are encouraged to be responsible pet owners by having their pets vaccinated. Rabies is a very serious disease of warm-blooded animals caused by a virus. Raccoons, bats, skunks, and foxes are common disease carriers. The virus is transmitted to humans and animals through saliva and can enter the body through a bite, a scratch, or open cut. The rabies virus infects the central nervous system and can cause brain swelling and ultimately death within days of the onset of symptoms. So, for more information, give the town of Ellington a call at 716-287-2026 or go to the Chautauqua County Health Department, 716-753-4481. 716-753-4481. All right, moving along. Let's talk basketball. What do you think? For 49 years, the Gus Macker 3-on-3 basketball tournament has traveled around the United States serving as an action-packed, family-friendly community collaboration sports activity. Woo. Jamestown has formed a partnership with Collaborative Children's Solutions to bring all of the excitement back on Saturday, August 19th and Sunday, August 20th. That's today and tomorrow. The streets of Jamestown will be packed with a festival atmosphere, bringing the youngest of our Mackermites up to the adult players who will compete for the top prize in their divisions. The Jamestown Macker will also include some specialty competitions, make it one of the best community events of the year. There will be plenty of good eats, great music, of course, incredible hoops, and more friendly competition. Okay, so that is today and tomorrow. All right, coming up, Hops and Pops in September. On the 15th, our community chamber committees in Dunkirk and in Fredonia are holding their second annual Hops and Pops event, September 15th, at the Beaver Club in Fredonia. The event is open to the entire community and will be held from 5:30 to 7:30. Tickets are only $20 per person, and you will get beer and wine tastings, appetizers, as well as entries into the cash prize and other drawings to be held throughout the evening. Hops and Pops is sponsored by the Brooks, TLC, Hospital System, Farrell Roofing, and a whole bunch more of folks, okay? So again, September 15th, and that's at the Beaver Club. Sounds like a lot of fun. And finally, let's go to the movies. Theater Camp and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse to show at the Reginald Renee Center for the Arts. All right, let's start with the first one. Tony Award-winning Ben Platt and Molly Gordon star in the original comedy Theater Camp. I'm not familiar with that one. Wednesday, August 23 at 7 p.m. as Amos and Rebecca Diane, lifelong best friends and drama instructors at a rundown camp in upstate New York, could be around here, when clueless tech bro Troy, played by Jimmy Tatro, arrives to run the property into the ground. Amos, Rebecca, Diane, and production manager Glenn, who's played by Noah Galvin, band together with the staff and students, staging a masterpiece to keep their beloved summer camp afloat. Theater Camp is rated PG-13. It's 98 minutes long. That sounds like fun. Okay, then Spider-Man. In Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, that's going to be shown August 25 at 7 p.m. Miles Morales, Brooklyn's full-time friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, reunites with Gwen Stacy, catapulting across the multiverse, where he encounters the Spider Society, a team of spider people charged with protecting the multiverse's very existence. I never heard of this before. But when the heroes clash on how to handle a new threat, Miles finds himself pitted against the other spiders and must set out on his own to save those he loves most. Sounds complicated. Anyways, anyone can wear the mask. It's how you wear it that makes you a hero. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is rated PG, and it's 140 minutes long. That's quite a long one. Tickets are usually $7, $6 for family films, and remember they add $1 for a theater restoration. Got to keep the place looking good. Check out the box office throughout the week, or you can call for tickets at 484-7070, 484-7070. Okay, that's it for announcements. We're going to take a little breather. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The color in my garden keeps the pink in my cheeks. I was very independent, thought I could take care of myself. I fell and I had to have Meals on Wheels. They're my savior. My name is Lola Silvestri. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
And we have Meals on Wheels right here in Chautauqua County. So I encourage people, if they are in need of a good meal at a very good price, check out the Meals on Wheels programs. I'm sure they're online or in the phone book. Okay, returning for part 2 is my friend Annie Donofrio. And she's like, knows all things about George Custer, Little Bighorn, but we're not going to talk so much about George today, are we?
No, not George.
What are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about 7th Cavalry families.
Families, but George was part of that cavalry.
Yes.
Okay, so let's roll back the tape a little bit. So are we talking before or after Little Bighorn, or all during? What's the time
We
period?
are talking after.
Okay, and what year about?
1876.
Okay, so last time we talked about Little Bighorn, you educated me big time on Custer and his troops and what happened and the debacle of Little Bighorn and so forth. Mm-hmm. But you also kind of set me straight that people really have framed Custer as sort of a kook, but he wasn't. He was just flamboyant and kind of a, radiant personality, but things just didn't kind of work out for him, it seemed like.
Not that time.
So I'm going to let you talk about the 7th Cavalry and where they're from and let you kind of take things from here on.
Alrighty. Well, first I'd like to show you, this is a painted, oil painted, from a photo of Abraham Lincoln. It has some rings and dings in it because it needs to be framed.
Okay.
And it hung in the clerk's office of the District Court of Southern District of Ohio, Cincinnati. So, and it was painted by E.C. Middleton. So this is a genuine, very special thing, and I bought it for $125. And
now this is a photograph of the painting?
This is a painted photograph.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, they actually take the photo, probably Matthew Brady took this photo, and then they paint it and to give it color.
Oh, so they kind of like enhance the photo?
Yes.
I have never seen that before.
Yeah, and this, I am taking it to Surroundings. Surroundings is a frame and paint store in Westfield, right across from 7-Eleven. It's number 73 East Main.
All right.
And the owner is a very talented and charming woman named Patty. And I am going to have her put that in the convex frame, glass to protect it, and a frame that's, like
so this is like one of one.
Yeah, absolutely one of one.
Well, let's keep talking about this for a second. So,
okay.
Is this on canvas, on paper? What is this?
It is on canvas. You can see it's all nailed right there.
I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah, it's
so
gorgeous.
how did you come across this?
I got it in the antique store. They didn't know what they had. Obviously, I did. Yeah.
This looks to me Abraham Lincoln early in his career. I mean, he's looking pretty good.
Well, this is 1864.
Okay, but still, he looks pretty good there because back at the end there, I saw some photos of him, and he looked pretty rough.
Yeah, the presidency and the war.
And he had a disease too, right, of some sort?
Yeah, I forgot the name of it, but he did have a disease which it sort of extended his arms, and that's when they gave the impression that he was like a gorilla.
Oh, I never heard that.
Yeah, they making fun of him.
Well, I know it was debilitating anyways, and when you see his face and, back in 65, he really looked pretty rough.
Yeah, the last photograph was taken by Brady, and it was actually a cut, a crack in the lens that went through his forehead where he was shot.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah.
So now you attribute it to this gentleman named Bradley, but you don't know that for sure.
The photographer. That's the photographer, yes. It's very likely because he took most of the photos.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Oh,
that
yeah, I
is
love
way
that.
cool.
And I'd also like to share, this is by a local artist, and I bought it at Surroundings. Her name is Alicia Aaron Yates.
Okay.
And she's my son's girlfriend. She is just lovely and talented, and she made the frame, and she painted this using powdered makeup. She made her own paints.
What?
Yeah, and
makeup.
this is the Chautauqua Gorge State Forest in Sherman.
Okay, I'm familiar with the gorges in this area.
Yes, and she's on Instagram, and she also does jewelry. I'm wearing one of her earrings right now.
We're doing an Instagram commercial or info.
Yeah, we are. Isn't it gorgeous?
Very
yes,
nice.
I have that hanging up in my bedroom.
All right.
Okay. And to show you, here is another thing I acquired. This is Brigadier General George Armstrong Custer. This is a painted photograph taken by Brady, again, Matthew Brady, in Washington, D.C. He had it taken, and it's been painted for his honeymoon to Libby Custer in Washington, D.C. on February 23rd. This was taken, and it's in the original frame.
So this is, what year would this be? In the Civil War? After
This
the
is
Civil
1864.
Still the Civil War.
But you can see it's damaged, and Patty at Surroundings is going to repair that for me.
Wait a minute, what we're looking at on screen right now, not what you're holding up on screen. This is, you have the same idea as Abraham Lincoln, a painted photograph?
Yes, that's a painted photograph.
Well, where did you get that one?
I got that from my very good friend and historian, Jerome Green.
So you collect these, obviously.
Yeah, well.
Wow.
But you can see, he mailed it to me, and it came damaged. And so this is also one of a kind. And I just can't wait to get it back. We're not going to put convex glass over it because it won't work. She'd have to take it out of the frame. And here is...
Okay, next one.
This one is Lieutenant Donald McIntosh, 7th Cavalry. This is a painted photograph, and it's in a frame with a convex lens, and it's a gorgeous frame. And he is my next subject. He was killed at Battle of Little Bighorn on June 25th, and this is his wife, Molly. And so that's going to be my next research topic, are the two of them. Okay,
so in the previous picture, he was wearing a helmet or something. I've never seen.
This is a parade helmet. And the parade helmet has the bright yellow ponytail.
Oh, I see it now. Okay, I didn't realize that that's what that was.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So in this other picture now that's on screen, we have him in his, what he would wear on the field?
Yeah, that would be his field uniform. And his wife.
Why were women back in those days always wearing these dark colors? I mean, she looks like she's at a funeral.
Yeah. She likely,
Maybe she was.
she likely in mourning.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that.
No, he died at Little Bighorn?
Yes, he was killed.
Oh, maybe that was, okay.
Yeah, and he is buried, he was first buried in Fort Leavenworth National Cemetery, but he is buried in Arlington Cemetery. It's gorgeous, and his wife is there too. And I took this photograph when I went Ghouling, and Ghouling, G-H-O-U-L-I-N-G.
As in ghosts?
As in ghosts. This is, I'm Ghouling with my good friend, Siobhan Fallon.
All right.
And we are actually Ghouling Mrs. Major Marcus Reno's grave in Harrisburg. And
All right, well, let's not go any further than that. We got to talk about this for a minute. All right.
Okay.
So are we talking ghost hunting here? What do you
No,
mean
we
what does ghouling mean?
Ghouling is we search for graves of people that we care about, and we care about Mrs. Major Marcus Reno. And Marcus Reno was at the Battle of Little Bighorn. He was one of the survivors. And she died in 1870 of Bright's disease.
Okay.
And once she was gone and out of his life, he became a drunkard and a jerk. He was always a drunkard and a jerk, but it became
Maybe that's
serious.
why he survived.
Yeah, seriously. So what's interesting, the family plot, the Ross family plot, they have a empty space that was supposed to be reserved for Major Reno, but he could not get leave to attend the funeral, and the family never forgave him, and they left that plot blank. And we took pictures of us. You know, Siobhan is looking very sad and pouty that he's not there.
The reason why I asked about ghouling, because I've never heard that term, and evidently I do that. And I'll tell you why, just as an aside.
Yeah.
As town historian in Ripley, I often get many, many, many requests for so-and-so family member in Quincy Cemetery or East Ripley or whatever. And so I spend a lot of time in cemeteries, walking around. And after a while, that's probably the same feeling, sort of like they become old friends of yours.
Yes.
You kind of connect with these people when you read about their lives, and sometimes it's a happy moment, sometimes it's a sad moment, when you run past their lives, or when you see that their life was cut short for whatever reason, or there's others that live 100, 104 years old, some of these folks. And so it's a story behind every stone, really.
Yeah.
So that's called ghouling?
Yes, some people call it ghouling.
Never heard that before.
I never heard it either, but my friend Dale said that's
I'm a
what
ghouler.
Ghouler. So we were ghouling that day in Harrisburg because I was attending the Custer in the Civil War at the National Civil War Museum, a gorgeous museum.
Where's this located?
In Harrisburg. At Gettysburg and Harrisburg. The Gettysburg, the National Civil War, it gets really confusing, museum in Harrisburg. And there was a symposium talking about Custer.
And you presented there, right?
No, I did not.
You just attended.
But my friends did, and so I wanted to. Siobhan Fallon was talking.
Now she's the one in the lower bottom right there? Okay.
And
she's a ghouler.
She's a ghouler. She was talking the battle after the Little Bighorn, the widow, the writer, and the man they called Coward. And she's writing, but the Coward is Major Reno. Okay. And the widow is Libby Custer, and the writer is Whitaker, who wrote a book about George Armstrong Custer, a biography, and it actually came out in December of 1876. So he really threw that one together.
There appears to be a robust interest in the Civil War still. A friend of mine, Don Mater, he lives down in that area, actually near Harrisburg, and he's over in Gettysburg a lot. And in fact, I sent him our last show that we did together. He was very, very interested, and I believe he posted it to his Facebook page on Civil War Discovery, I think it's called. So I find it fascinating that people are so interested in what you're doing. So how many people would have attended this symposium?
There were 140-ish. maybe more. And we all sat at lovely tables, and Siobhan wanted me to sit up front because she was very nervous. And she wanted to see that one friendly face.
Absolutely.
Because that's what Libby Custer used to do. Anyway, Siobhan is an author in her own right. She's an Army wife, and this is called The Confusion of Languages. It was on the New York bestseller for weeks, and she is a novelist, and this is actually a novel. Being an Army wife, this talks about Army wives in Iraq.
Oh, wow.
Or Afghanistan, Iraq.
Yeah, it was all during that time.
Yeah. Right? And her husband is there now in Iran or Iraq, one of the two. And
probably Iraq.
Yeah,
I don't think Iran.
She and her daughters will be joining him in Cyprus for a 3-year tour of duty.
Wow.
So we're going to miss her.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's the book basically about?
It's about it's about Army wives and what happens to their soldiers when they're gone, and that they have temptations, and Army wives have temptations as well, and such as that.
You know, we speak from experience in our own family. My son Scott is a 25-year veteran of the Army and Special Forces, and when you talk about the wives and behind the scenes, I mean, it's a very, very, I want to say, difficult lifestyle.
It is.
Because they're traveling with their husbands, or the other way around. Sometimes it's the other way. The wife's in the service, and the husband is the supporter, supporting actor in the story. And these people they're on missions for 6-7 months at a time, come home for a month, and then they're gone again. It's a very strained way to have a marriage.
It is. It is. It's very. That they've been married a good long time, and
well, good for them.
And he's a full colonel. Okay, this is by Eric Wittenberg. Talked about George Armstrong Custer in the 1864 Overland Campaign, and he wrote another award-winning book. And this is, I'm in the middle of reading it right now. It is about it's Gettysburg's Forgotten Cavalry Actions. And in 1863, when General Pleasanton was in charge of the cavalry, he appointed 3 captains or lieutenants as brigadier generals, and they took over their position, brigade commanders. And one was Custer, one was General Merritt, and one was Farnsworth, and he was 24 years old.
Oh my gosh!
And he was ordered to, during Pickett's charge,
right?
He was ordered by Cavalry General Kilpatrick to charge into the enemy, and the infantry of Longstreet's infantry, and there were walls and rough terrain and everything. And he said to the General Kilpatrick, he said, "It's a suicide attempt. You know, you can't do this to our people." And he said, "If you're afraid, I'll do it for you." And they had this heated argument. And he said he would go. And he led the charge and was killed almost instantly. Yeah, it was very, very sad. So
this is where Custer is promoted to
Brigadier General.
Okay, but then later on kind of loses that title, right?
He later on, during the Indian Wars, or when he joins the 7th Cavalry?
I don't know, but I mean, during Little Bighorn, he's not a
No, he's
general.
a lieutenant colonel.
Right.
Yeah, because the regular army, he's been demoted.
Right. That's why I said there was something that he gets knocked down some.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the next one is by Jeffrey Wirt. This is a biography of George Armstrong Custer. I've met him. I've had him sign this book, and it's, if you want any and everything you want to know about Custer and the Little Bighorn, Jeffrey Wirt's book is highly recommended.
My hair looked just like that yesterday before
It
I
did
got
really.
my haircut.
Yeah. receding hairline and
Receding
all.
hair. Well, I wasn't going to mention that part, but the long hair in the back, anyways.
Yeah.
So what's the myth about Custer? I mean, why is everybody so enthralled with Custer?
Well, first of all, he was a very successful general, highly successful in the Civil War. And he was in almost every campaign for the Army of the Potomac in Virginia, and very successful. He is the one that who received General Longstreet's surrender towel at Appomattox Courthouse. And General Sheridan, who was his commander of the cavalry, had purchased the surrender table that General Grant wrote on.
Okay.
And he presented it to Mrs. Custer.
Wow.
Because if it wasn't for her husband, they would not have won.
Now, Custer was with the cavalry, right? Which
Yes.
was connected to the Army.
Yes.
Okay, so they would come flying in on horses and swords and all that stuff. And
Sabers.
sabers,
Sabers.
not swords.
No.
Saber. What's the difference?
Sabers have a curve to them.
Oh,
Swords are straight.
straight. So, okay, thank
Yep.
you.
You're welcome.
So then Custer, after the Civil War, he goes into what, another phase of his career?
Yeah, after the Civil War, he's no longer a brevet major general, and he is reduced to captain. And he goes into Texas, because Texas didn't...
Wasn't a state then yet.
Yeah, it was. And
Oh, was this? Oh, it was
yeah,
at that
this
point.
1865.
Okay.
And they're poor losers, and so they were making sure that the Texans knew that the war was over. And
That's right.
Yes.
I remember that. They're the enforcers. Okay, gotcha.
and then after the war, they formed the U.S. 7th Cavalry, a regular army, and since his regular rank was captain, he was lieutenant colonel of the 7th Cavalry. The colonel, Colonel Sturgis, was always put on detached service so that General Custer, Sheridan's pet, would always be in command in the field.
Okay, and now the 7th Cav was out of Michigan? Is that
Yeah,
what-
7th Cav was out of Leavenworth. It's a regular army. So Fort Leavenworth is where they formed the cavalry.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's that. And the last book I wanted to recommend, this is by Jim Hessler, who spoke with Custer to the End about Captain George Yates. And he is a author, and he also gives guided tours to Gettysburg battlefield. And this book is just gorgeous with all kinds of photographs and maps and whatever. And he spoke, and he also does podcasts on YouTube about Gettysburg. Siobhan also does podcasts on YouTube about Custer.
Now with Pickett, he was instrumental at Gettysburg?
Yes, he was. The Pickett's charge, they were ordered on the third day by Lee to cross 1 mile of open field to the copse of trees, which was the center of the Union Army on Cemetery Ridge. And they would go forward and move in and up and move in, and it was disastrous, of course. And this is General Armistead leading. And once they got to Emmitsburg Road, that he crossed the fence and got the cannon and was shot.
Oh boy.
And killed.
Yeah.
And
Gettysburg-
mortally wounded.
Gettysburg was just a tragic
Oh, it
scene.
was. It was terrible. So those are the books, and what I have as well is research review, another plug for the Little Bighorn Associates. And I have The Heart of the Family Yates, which will be in the next issue that's published, coming out very soon. And I am sharing this journal with George Armstrong Custer the Fourth.
What? So you wrote this?
Yeah, I wrote this, The Heart of the Yates Family, about
Right.
George Yates and his lovely wife.
Okay.
And here we go.
You got a lot of stuff here.
I got a lot of stuff here. Here she is.
There she
This is Annie Yates and George Yates. And Annie was just beautiful.
I would say she's very
Yes.
attractive. Look at
And-
those eyes. Ooh.
And Chauvin did a fantastic YouTube about her because she was an Army wife. Yes, that's Annie Yates.
So, of all the people that were in the Civil War, that were in the cavalry, why did you pick the Yates? What's the story?
Why the Yates? Because I was at an auction, and
Of course you were.
I was at in Butterfield, San Francisco, and it was the Yates family collection.
Okay.
And I saw a letter to Annie Yates, Monroe, Michigan, and, I bought it. And inside there was photographs of Annie's daughter, Bessie, who's born at Fort Abraham Lincoln. And there was a letter from Annie to George that telling him that she was praying for him and that he should read the Bible because he had been drinking heavily on the 1873 campaign and lost $400. And she was told this, and so she was trying to tell him that she's fine because she was pregnant with Bessie.
Okay.
And he was worried about her, and because she did not handle her pregnancies well as far as physically.
And once again, the behind the story is the story.
Great
right?
stuff. Yeah, so I got that letter, and then I got a letter from Frank Yates, George's brother, to Annie Yates from Red Cloud Agency, saying that I can find the bodies of Boston Custer's brother and nephew, Audie Reed, and I could clean them up and bring them back and ship them to Monroe so they will be buried. And he did it. And it was just, I researched the whole business of, he was cutting hay up at the battlefield, and he was at Fort Custer. He had a hay contract, and his father-in-law went down and found the bodies. They had to get a special permission from the colonel, which I found at the archives, National Archives, giving them permission to exhume the bodies.
And the bodies were at the battlefield?
Yeah, they
Little
were.
Bighorn?
They were on Last Stand
How
Hill.
in the world did they find the bodies?
They had a map. They knew where they were.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a map that they had. When they found the bodies 3 days later and identified them, they would put a teepee post with a name in
Something
shell
attached to it.
casing. Yeah. So they had Boston and Audie, who were down the slope of Last Stand Hill. They were there with their brother and uncle.
George's brother's name was Boston?
Yeah, Boston. They call him Boss. Yeah,
Wow.
Boston.
I've
Custer.
never heard of him before.
Oh yeah, he was a goof.
So, like, how many hours a week do you spend on all this? I mean, you seem like
It
You're
is my
deep.
life. It's my life. And so if you join the Little Bighorn Associates, they are all things Custer, Civil War. They have a symposium on the East Coast for Civil War battle sites, and then they alternate and go out to the West Coast, like Fort Abraham Lincoln, the battlefield, Battle of Washita, and they have wonderful symposium, and they have the research review, and you just got to join.
So, if you had somebody in your family that was involved with the Civil War or Little Bighorn, would you be able to do research through this group?
You can use some of their articles. or go on their field trips.
But I mean, is there a database that you can search?
Search.
A search engine of some sort?
Well, they do have a discussion group, and that you can join, ask questions, share what you know, and.
So, because we're sitting here in Mayville in Chautauqua County, are there any connections of this area to any of these stories that you're aware of?
Nope.
It was pretty much regional then.
It's regional, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, then how did you get hooked up with this again? Because you were a teacher and you got involved with this, or how did that work
No,
out?
I've been a Custer nerd since 1976 when the centennial, and bought books and books and books and books and more books. So a teacher friend of mine sent a newsletter from which is the Custer Battlefield Dispatch, from the Custer, long one, Custer Battlefield Historical and Museum Association, Inc., and the CBHMA. And you could join for $10.
All right, what a deal.
And they had all these books that I could purchase. And I said, so I started reading and reading and reading and reading. They have the field trip every year out west and around the battlefield. They have a symposium which I spoke at, and just recently, here we go, I did talk on the reluctant widow, Mrs. Lieutenant Grace Berard Harrington, Mrs. Lieutenant, excuse me, Henry Moore Harrington. She was Grace Berard Harrington, who they never found Harrington's body. So she was convinced that he was still alive and he was coming home. And she never, ever, ever lost that belief.
Wow.
And she disappeared for 3 years when she was visiting friends in Texas. And she was supposed to meet her sister at the depot, and she didn't show up. 3 years later, she is in pretty much that same depot. She doesn't know who she is. She had a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
And they sent her to the hospital. And her memory came back.
Oh, wow.
She knew who she was. And so they contacted her sister. Her sister went and got her, took her home to Highland Falls, New York, and where she's from. And she's still, over the years, she would seem to recover. And then every once in a while, she'd say, "Where's Harry?"
Have a little relapse.
Yeah, when's he coming home? Did you see him? Where is he? And yeah,
It's almost like PTSD for the widows.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
That again. I don't think people that haven't had a military family, or those that are watching right now, they're very much understanding what you're saying. Even back in those days, I mean, any war, you always had the family back home.
Yes.
Dealing with loss, with unknown. I mean, never bringing closure.
Exactly.
That's horrible.
She never had closure. She always believed it, and it got very serious when she was staying at her sister's in Texas. She had a trunk of Harry's things, and his uniform, his saber, and all that. And it was in a fire, and it burned up.
Oh, no.
And she said, "Now, what am I going to have for Henry when he comes home?" Yes, it was very, very sad. And my point being that all widows are reluctant, and they suffer PTSD, but she never, ever recovered, and she didn't die until 1919.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you a question. So, I know that from family experiences in that, we had the VA and supportive services, and I've got Greg Carlson comes on all the time talking about veterans. What kind of support was there for widows? Was there anything?
No.
So
no.
he was a high-ranking officer, and it was nothing.
He was a second lieutenant.
Oh well, all right.
Yeah,
so it wasn't
but
that
he
high.
was in command of Company C at the battle.
All right, but when he died, that was it. There was nothing coming.
No, she did get a pension, and which was like $15 a month.
Even then, that's not much.
Yeah, and then they eventually raised it to $100 a month. But she was from a well-to-do family, so she was taken care of.
But,
yeah, she was
but many of the low-end soldiers, their wives and children would have been in poverty.
Yeah,
perhaps.
In the Civil War, they had the Widows Fund. The Red Cross did that, or whoever. The Sanitary Commission had a Widows Fund, and they would have auctions and balls and whatever to raise money. But that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they really were at the mercy of friends and family. Let me ask you a funny question in this sense. I know that I've seen statistics that in the military there's a high divorce rate. Divorce obviously wasn't as popular, I suppose, or was frowned upon back then?
It was frowned upon,
but
sure.
But was that pretty common where they would even split, not divorce, but just split?
Well, probably, but what was more common and unknown, George Yates was a divorced man.
Okay.
Yeah, and that premarital relations, and that's what happened. Grace and Henry had relations, and she was pregnant. He went back home. He was a West Point graduate. He went back home and then was appointed by the 7th Cavalry in North Carolina. And the family liked to say that, they were engaged before he left. But no. She was about 3 months pregnant. She might not have known, but she did tell Henry, and she went down to visit him in North Carolina, and they were married, and the baby was born 1 month later.
Wow.
Yeah. So when Henry was going to the Yellowstone exposition, he didn't take her along. He did marry her, he did the right thing, but how do you explain a new wife and a 1 month or 3 month old baby?
Oh boy.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Double life.
Yeah, so that's...
Annie, we have a couple minutes left of the show.
Yeah.
This has been fascinating. So are there any key ingredients of behind the scenes, the children or anything else that pops out from the behind the scenes of these people's lives?
This is a photograph of Fort Rice, and this is the 7th Cav and their families. So this is, there it is. Okay, you can't see them very much. Lieutenant Harrington is...
Oh, there it comes up.
Yeah,
Okay, now
Lieutenant
you're up on screen.
Harrington is in the porch, and this is taken by Goff, Bismarck, Dakota Territory. CO is the commander's home. Fort Rice, Dakota Territory, Pro Tempora, Tilford, he was the commanding officer.
Okay.
And there's all the families, and so they lost.
These are the families of the fallen at Little Bighorn.
All these women, these Army wives who followed their husbands from post to post to post.
And they still do it to this day.
They still do to this day.
Okay.
As Chauvin is testimony to. I do want to announce that I am going to be talking about The Reluctant Widow at the Ripley Public Library.
Oh, when's that?
And that's November 7th at 6 p.m.
Super.
Yeah.
All right.
Looking forward to that.
All right. Well, Annie, we're about out of time, so thanks for coming back.
Thank you.
It's such a big story, and
Yep.
like I said, you always hear about the heroes or the fallen, but you don't hear behind the scenes and the aftermath. I mean, not knowing that they had any real support financially is really disastrous.
Yes, it was.
They were the breadwinners were gone, and how those children grew up without a father and wives without husbands, and all the pressures, that must have been really, really difficult.
Yeah.
So anything that you want to share in the last few seconds here?
No, I think I'm good. I do want to say that, speaking of children, Grace and Henry's had 2 children, and they grew up with a mother that was insane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they had a rough time.
All right, well, Annie Donofrio, thanks for being my guest again and doing part 2 to our story.
Part 2.
the Little Bighorn and Custer and all those that were involved in and we heard a little bit about their lives and good resources for people that are interested to learn more about this topic. So thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
And November 7th, 6 p.m. at the Ripley Library.
That's
a
right.
Presentation. All right, folks, I'm Doc Hamels. You've been watching Chautauqua Sunrise. Hope you enjoyed that, and please share this with your friends that are interested in this topic. I'm going to share this with my friend Don, and we'll see you next week. Have a lovely weekend, and get out there and enjoy everything here in Chautauqua County.
Yeah.
Okay? Bye now.
Well, I saw those.